Go to Dr. Rona.
Okay.
My cat's taken care of. Okay. We may not purchase wood, milk, or kids from shepherds, nor wood or fruit from watchmen of fruit, but we may purchase from women woolen garments in Judea, linen garments in Galilee, and the calves in Sharon. But if any of them says that we must be kept hidden, it's prohibited, and we may purchase eggs and fowl anywhere. Shreds of wool that the laundress pull out belong to him, but when the wool comber pulls out belongs to the owner. The launderer may pull out 3 strands and they belong to him. If he pulls out more than that, they belong to the owner. If it was black on white, he may take off everything and they belong to him. If a tailor left over thread enough to sew with it or patch with his 3 finger breadth square, they belong to the owner. What a carpenter takes out with a plane belongs to him, with a hatchet belongs to the owner. And if he was working on the owner's premises, however, even the sawdust belongs to the owner. Okay.
Yeah, Hadrimulach, Seres Baba Kama, and one Khazar from Metzia.
One Khazar from Chet Zion. If once.
Okay, you want to do Chetzai? No problem. I'm just going to do the one new one.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, go on.
If one says, blind my eye, cut off my hand, break my leg, he is liable. On condition to be exempt, he is liable. Tear my clothes or break my leg.
Wait. Which you're in Ches Zion?
I thought that was right.
Of Baba Kama?
Yeah, I thought that was right.
I think you didn't start it. No, that's I recognize the mission that you're reading, but that's not the no. Tell me, just start. What did you start with again?
I did Chet Zion.
But go back to the beginning of the Mishnah. You started in the middle of the Mishnah.
I know, I realize that.
Yeah.
Although he pays him, he is not forgiven for it until he seeks forgiveness from him, as it is said, but now return the wife. Now, from where do we know that the one who forgives should not be cruel? It is said, and Avram prayed to God, and God healed Avimelech. If one says, blind my eye, cut off my hand, or break my leg, he is liable. On condition to be exempt, he is liable. Tear my clothes or break my jug, he is liable. On condition to be exempt, he is exempt. Do this to so-and-so on a condition that you be exempt, he is liable, whether it is against the body or against his property. If one steals wood and makes it into utensils or wool and makes it into garments, he pays as if it is the time of the robbery. If one steals a pregnant cow and a calves or a ewe bearing wool and he shears it, he pays the value of the cow ready to calve or the value of the ewe ready to be shorn. If he steals a cow and it becomes impregnated while with him and it calves or a ewe and it becomes laden with wool while with him and he shears it, he pays as the time of the robbery. This is the general rule. All robbers pay as the time of the robbery. And if one steals an animal and it ages, or slaves and they age, and he pays at the time of the robbery. Rameya says in the case of slaves, he may say to him, here is your property before you. If he steals a coin and it cracks, fruit and it rots, for wine and it sours, he pays at the time of the robbery. If he steals a coin and it becomes disqualified truma, it becomes ritually contaminated, and it is in his possession on Pesach for an animal, and it is used for transgression or becomes disqualified for the altar, he is condemned to be stoned. He may say to him, here is your property before you.
Okay. All right. So let's go to Bava Metzia and just do the first one.
Okay. Let's see, it says, if 2 persons are holding a cloak and one says, I found it, and the other one says, I found it, or one says, it is all mine, and the other says, it is all mine, this one must swear that he owns no less of it than half, and that one must swear that he owns no less of it than half, and they divide it. If one says, it is all mine, and the other one says, half of it is mine, he who says, it is all mine, must swear that he owns no less of it than 3/4, and he says, half of it is mine, must swear that he owns no less of it than 1/4. And this one takes 3/4, and that one takes 1/4.
Okay. So Mishnah base is a very similar thing, a very similar case to Aleph. So 2 guys are riding an animal, or one of them is riding and one of them is driving it. and each one is claiming that that they found the animal, and they should be the ones who should be able to keep it. Okay. Again, so each one swears that they own no less than half of it, and they divide it. Now, what's the difference between these two cases? That is the method of taking possession of the animal. Is that in the case of the garment, they're both holding on to it. That's the only way you can get own a garment is by picking it up.
Right.
Okay. But here, what we're teaching is that if somebody is riding an animal, even if he didn't grab it by the strap and pull it, he climbed onto it and dug his knees into the side in order to make it move. Even that is enough to affect possession of the animal. So we just don't know who made the animal move. Was it the guy holding the strap in the front? Was it the guy sitting on the saddle digging his knees into the side? Each one's got their claim, and so again we split 50-50 with the shvur. Now, the last sentence of the Mishnah says, "Bisman shehem modim or sheyesh lehem edim cholkim b'lo shvur." If, however, one of them admits it or there are witnesses, then they divide without a shvur, or that is if there is a witness that there is a witnesses that it should be split. Obviously, if the witnesses that it's entirely his, then they don't split it. But what's the below shvur part? Why does it need to tell us that it's below shvur? That even if the Beis Din has already ruled that they need to take a shvur, and the two guys look at each other and say, "Listen, I don't want to take a shvur. You don't want to take a shvur. Let's just change our tainas." And the guy says, "Look, I admit half of it is his," and the other guy admits, "I admit half of it is his." Then they can split it without taking the shvur anymore. They can say so that by common consent they can get rid of the shvur from themselves. Or if they bring witnesses, if one guy brings a witness to prove that half of it is his, then he can keep his half, and the other guy gets to keep his half also without a shvur. Okay. So there's a guy riding on an animal, and he sees a Metzia, something that's clearly going to be his if he picks it up. Let's say a 200 shekel note. Okay, money is automatically going to be Yush, so you could pick it up. But Amar lechavero, and he says to his friend, "Hey, there's a 200 shekel note. Get that for me, please." Right? Get it. Well, let's be medayek on the lashon over here because that's actually important. Tanali, give it to me, he says. So his friend on the ground picks it up and says, "I found it. I got it." It's fine because he's under no obligation to. He's not there as a shliach to be zochenet for his friend. He was zochenet for himself. Okay. Even if he initially picked it up thinking, "Let me give it to my friend," and said, "No, hang on a second. Why is he any more entitled to it than I am? He's holding it. He wasn't Mazaki his friend in the ownership until he actually hands it over. Unless his friend to him said, 'Look, can you be Mazaki me in that note?' If he actually uses the lashon and says, 'Pick up that note on my behalf,' or 'Be Mazaki me,' whatever. If he picks it up with that das, then it's already done. Then he acted as his friend's shaliach, and now he can't keep it for himself if that was his das. But if he says, I don't want to be your shaliach, I want to get it for myself," then he can keep. Then he's entitled to keep it for himself. But going back to our original case, where the guy says, "Give it to me," and so he picks it up and he hands it over to his friend, and his friend takes it and he says, "Well, hey, give it back because I had das to keep it for myself." If after he gave it, he says, "I wanted to have it for myself," no maklum, we don't believe him. That's just a guy having buyer's remorse, or
right.
he suddenly realized, "Hey, I missed out on an opportunity over there." Now he's trying to talk himself back into it. That's too late. It's already because possession is 9/10 of the law, and he can't claim that is his. Mishna Daled, so a guy is walking in the street and he sees a Metzia, And and instead of picking it up, a whole bunch of people will all see it at once, and he runs and dives on top of it. Now, is placing your body on top of something considered a Kenyan? No, it's not.
No, it's not. Yeah, pick it
No,
up, bro.
right? So another guy sees the note sticking out from underneath him and just yanks it away. The guy who's holding it is the guy who owns it. Now, here's another interesting factoid. If you're on the sides of the Rosh Hashanah, let's say you're walking near the side of the street and you see a 200 shekel note, and you walk up to it and stand next to it inside your Dalit Amas, Chazal say that your Dalit Amas acquire for you, but only on the side of the Rosh Hashanah. So you can't just go up to somebody and say, "Oh, you've got a 200 shekel note; it's lying in the middle of there." Even though if it's next to the guy's foot, if it's within his Dalit Amas, it belongs to him.
But if it's not next to him,
if it's in the middle of the road, then the Dalit Amas don't acquire anyway. So the question is, why would jumping on the thing not be inside his Dalit Amas? And the answer is because he jumped on it. If he had wanted to acquire it, he could have just walked up. If he had wanted to acquire it using his Dalit Amas, he could have just walked up to it, put his foot there next to it, and said, "It's in my Dalit Amas. It's mine." Doesn't need to go diving on top of it. So diving on top of it means that he didn't want to acquire it using his 4 amas. He was trying to acquire it using a method that didn't work, and therefore it didn't work. So doing more actually did less.
But we have the same thing. I think it was Paya maybe, where a person couldn't jump on the leftover, but it couldn't, same thing.
Exactly. Well remembered. And don't ever tell me that your memory is going back. But look, you see this. You see, this is the joy of doing chazaras in your Mishnayos. Because you've seen that case in Paya a few times. You said, "Hey, this sounds like a guy who threw his cloak." Remember, he threw his cloak over some of the Paya. Doesn't work. And in fact, we chucked him out of the field.
Right. So okay, good. Thank you. Right. Okay.
That's what Chazara does for you. Okay. Ra'a osan ratzin acha Metzia, acha tzvi shavur, acha gozelos shelo parku. So here's a guy who looks out into his property, and he sees that there are a bunch of people, that there's a wounded deer, or a lame deer or something like that they're busy chasing to try and catch. And they could catch it in his property. And if he wanted to, he could also go out and catch it. But instead he says, "It's in my field." And he says, "My field is corner for me." Right? Zachsa bi sadi. Really sadi. Zachsa, it works. Magic. Boom. The field electrically goes out and grabs the deer. And if somebody else subsequently catches it, he can walk up to them and say, "Please give me my deer. My field acquired it for me before you caught it." So that he can do. However, if it was uninjured, or there were birds that were that could fly and get away easily, and he says, "My field has acquired it. Your field can only catch things that you can catch."
Right.
But if it's a free running deer, you're not going to catch it without nets, without some special equipment. Okay, so so his field can't acquire it for him if he couldn't personally walk out and grab it. Okay, that's it for brothers. Let's go to Kiddushin.
Okay, base dollar. If one says to his agent, "Go out and betroth so and so for me in such and such a place," and he went and betrothed her in a different place, she is not betrothed. If he said she is in such and such a place and he betrothed her in a different place, she is betrothed. If one betrothed a woman on condition that she is not under any vows and it is found that she is under vows, she is not betrothed. If he married her without making any stipulations and it is found that she is under vows, she may be divorced without a ketubah. If he betrothed her on condition that she has no bodily defects and such defects were found upon her, she is not betrothed. If she married her without any stipulations and bodily defects were found upon her, she may be divorced without a ketubah, and all bodily defects that disqualify Kohanim also disqualify women. And if one betroths 2 women with the value of a pshuta, with 1 woman with less than the value of a pshuta, even though he sent gifts afterwards, she is not betrothed because he sent them on account of the original condition. The same applies to a minor who betrothed. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Nadarim.
Yeah. A base.
We have
Venn diagrams that are concentric circles. Yeah.
okay. I have Gimel.
No. Yeah. But I've got wait, let me check. Base. From base.
Base. Who makes another prohibiting
Oh
something?
no. So the Venn diagrams is in Nid and not Nadarim. Go on.
Oh, I'm on the right place. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Uh,
Yes. Yes.
if
Oh,
one who makes a net of prohibiting something prepared in a pot is forbidden only a boiled food. If he said Kohanam goes into a pot with respect to my tasting it, it is forbidden whatever is cooked in a pot. If he prohibited the preserved food, he is forbidden only preserved vegetables. Preserved food with respect to my tasting, he is forbidden all preserved foods. And in seed food, he is forbidden only seed meat. Seed food with respect to my tasting, he is forbidden all seed foods. The roast, he is forbidden only roasted meat. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Roast with respect to my tasting. He is forbidden all roasted foods. The salted food, he is forbidden only salted fish. And salted food with respect to my tasting, he is forbidden all salted foods. If one said, Kohanam fishes with respect to my tasting, he is forbidden. With that, he's forbidden them whether large or small, whether salted or unsalted, whether raw or cooked, but he is permitted hashed, taris, and brine. One who makes a net of prohibiting or sorted hashed fish is forbidden hashed taris, but permitted brine and fish juice. One who makes a net of prohibiting hashed taris is forbidden brine and fish juice. One who
okay.
makes a
No, that's it.
that's
That's
it.
three.
Just the idea of brine and fish juice just doesn't
Yum yum.
turn me on. Base,
Awesome.
base Gimel. No, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
basically.
Chametz of a gentle over which Pesach has passed, deriving benefits from it is permitted, but chametz of a Jew deriving benefits from it is forbidden, since it is said, "None shall leaven, nor shall leaven be seen with you." If a Gentile lent money to a Jew on his chametz, then after Pesach, deriving benefits from it is permitted. But if a Jew lent money to a Gentile on his chametz, then after Pesach, deriving benefit from it is forbidden. If a ruin collapsed over chametz, it is regarded as removed, and Rabbi Gamil said, provided a dog cannot search it out. One who eats truma of chametz on Pesach inadvertently must repay a chohen, the principal, plus a fifth. If he eats it deliberately, he is free from payment and from liability for its value as fuel. Okay.
One more.
There are three species of grain which a man fulfills his obligation of matzah on Pesach with: wheat, barley, spelt, rye, and oats, and we can discharge it with demai. With first tithe, whose truma has been separated, and with second tithe or consecrated produce that were redeemed, kohanim with challah and truma, but not with untied produce, nor with the first tithe, whose truma has not been separated, not with second tithe or consecrated produce that were not redeemed. Regarding the unleavened loaves of the Thanksgiving offering and the Nazarites' wafers, if he made them for himself, he could not fulfill his obligation with them. But if he made them to sell in the market, he can fulfill his obligation with them. Okay. Right. We have Nida, and I have
Right. This is the Venn diagrams, but
Vav Ches. Every growth that is subject to beer is subject to shiv.
no. It's Mishna test.
Every fish that has scales has fins, but there can be a fish that has fins but does not have scales. Every animal that has horns has split hooves, but there can be an animal that has split hooves but does not have horns. Everything that requires a blessing after it requires a blessing before it, but there can be something that requires a blessing before it but does not require a blessing after it. A girl who produced two hairs could perform either chalitza or yibum, and she was obligated in all the commandments stated in the Torah. Similarly, a boy who produced two hairs is obligated in all the commandments stated in the Torah. He is eligible to be a ben sarah to Amora from the time he produces two hairs until the beard grows around, which refers to the lower beard, not the upper one, for the sages spoke euphemistically. A girl who produced two hairs cannot perform mium, where Yehuda says, until the black appears abundant.
Yeah. And of course.
And of course, hey. So, hey. Right. The Kohen who believes this is believed to say, I showed this before to an expert and it is blemished. And all who believe concerning the blemishes of the master offering and of a
Maser.
book.
Maser offering.
The Kohen is believed to say, I showed this before to an expert and it is blemished. All believe concerning the blemishes of the Misa offering. If a Bakor eyes was blinded, its foreleg cut off, or its hind leg broken, it may be slaughtered by the decision of 3 laymen. Rabbi Yossi says, even if there are 24, it may not be slaughtered except for the decision of an expert. If one slaughters a Bakor and sells it, and it becomes known that he did not show it to an expert, what they ate, and he must return. They must return their money to them, and whatever the meat they did not eat must be buried, and he must return the money to them. Similarly, if one slaughters a cow and sells it, and it becomes known that it was trefa, what they ate, and he must return the money to them. And whatever meat they did not eat, they return to him, and he must return the money to them. And if they sold it to non-Jews or gave it to dogs, they must pay him only the worth of a trefa. On account of the following blemishes, a Makor may be slaughtered. Its ear is notched in the cartilage, not in the skin, or it is slit, although nothing is missing, or it has a hole as big as a vetch, or it has dried up. What is considered dried up? Anything that is punctured does not emit a drop of blood. The Shulam says it is so dry that it crumbles.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it for today.
Okay, thank you. I should be able to get the Metzia on time.
Good.
The dogs are getting the treatment from Dr. Kunin today. 2 of the cats, I mean dogs, I said 2 of the cats.
Okay, have a good day.
Great day. Thank you, Sean. I'll see you tomorrow.